Come back to us in a couple of weeks.
When he feels like it.
Good evening. I'm going to call to order this meeting of the Wendell Town Board of Commissioners. Welcome you all. Thank you for being here tonight with us. We're going to be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Police Chief Bill Carter.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our invocation tonight from the Wendell Council of Churches is Reverend McFarland of the New Hope Missionary Baptist Church. If you could step up, sir. Thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you for having me, Mayor and town leaders. My name is Barry McFarland, pastor of New Hope Missionary Baptist Church in Wendell. Glad to be here tonight to be a part of this commissioners meeting. We just want to tell you a few things about our church. We just recently changed our hours of service. Our Sunday school has been changed to 9 o'clock in the morning. Worship service starts at 10, and our midweek service is at 7 o'clock. So we're doing good, and the church is thriving. We thank God for it. And we solicit your prayers as well as we pray for you right now. We ask you to bow your heads as we invite the presence of the Lord into this place. Heavenly Father, we bless your name. We thank you for the opportunity to call on you, for Lord, it is a privilege to call on your name. We ask you right now to come into this place, Lord, as we see the world is full of turmoil, but at the same time, Lord, when we call on you, Lord, you always come. We ask you, Lord, to be a part of the meeting here at this great town of Wendell, to touch the hearts of everyone here, that everything to be done be conducted in decency and order. We praise you, Lord, for just being Lord of our lives. We ask you to keep us, Lord, in perfect peace, like only you can, in the mighty name of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. Amen.
Thank you again for being with us. Are there any adjustments to the agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda.
A motion to approve. All in favor? There's no one signed up for public comment tonight. A motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're going to move into our recognitions, reports, and presentations now. Item 4A is the presentation of Wendell Police Department's monthly report. We're going to hear from Police Chief Bill Carter. Good evening, Chief.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the board. I come before you tonight as follow-up to something we started at your retreat back in February of this year. In our discussion about the goal number 2 of the strategic plan regarding public safety and neighborhood improvements, one of the things that we sought was a way to identify methods and seek departmental-wide training to proactively and consistently utilize community-engaged policing methods. Well, that goes, training is a very broad term there, in that we were looking for opportunities to interact both with you all as an elected body as well as the community that we serve. So in doing that, we began some proactive research to look for opportunities to share things regarding what our police department does, or what your police department does, and be able to communicate that in a way to put it into, using the old term, I'm going to go back and say snapshot for a minute on a monthly basis. But essentially, that's what we were trying to do so we could better inform the community as well as promote transparency within the police department. Now, as I go through this tonight's inaugural report, which is based on July's data, I want to remind you of one thing. As a smaller community, we have smaller numbers, which means a change of 0 to 1 or 0 to 3 is a huge change statistically, but the raw numbers are not that great. We'll talk a little bit more about how that compares us to Raleigh and places like that in a few minutes. Over time, as we collect this data a little bit better and fine-tune our process, we'll be able to give you some meaningful comparisons to the community as a whole in terms of what performances are going on, what things are happening across the town and as your police department interacts with the community. Again, this is a high-level overview in terms of the activities of the police department. It does provide specific details on specific crimes because there are certain state statutes that we have to adhere to in terms of disclosure of information as they relate to that. But I just want to, you have as an attachment a copy of the inaugural or July-based data, and just want to kind of walk through what you're seeing there. The first topic area that you'll see in there after a little introduction is calls for service. For us, calls for service are generated either by the police officers themselves or in response to a call to the 911 center or the police department during daytime business hours. It could be anything from unlocking a vehicle to checking a suspicious person, traffic stops, today being the kickoff day for school, to working school crossing twice a day. All of those things serve to document what we do. I see any situation in which there's an officer responding to assist, correct, or address a problem. So those are calls for service. And you'll see what we'll try to do as we go forward basically is give you the opportunity to see what our call for service numbers were for this month as it compares to the same month the previous year. This month, 471 calls for service compared to 539 in the previous year in the same month. Those numbers, again, will move for a variety of reasons. I've included the top 5 calls both in terms of overall calls, proactive, and then as a secondary chart, reactive. I think the important thing to do is when you look at the top chart there, those are including our self-initiated, both proactive and reactive. 5 categories of calls constitute 55% of what we do, with the number 1 being traffic stop. When we go back and look at dispatched calls or calls we are responding to as a result of input from others, that's 25.3%, with the number 1 type of call that we respond to in that venue being domestic related. So those are your calls for service. The next item up are response times. We established as a goal for the police department a 90th percentile response time from time dispatched to on scene of 7 minutes. We did that based on prior caseload, prior workload, and an effort to determine what the data had historically supported. So we looked to that 90th percentile target of 7 minutes or less. This past July, this previous month, our data was at 6.8 minutes. So we were below that target for that period of time. Excuse me. Reported crime. Now this is a little bit unique, but I'm going to talk just a minute about this because you'll see some data later this year coming from the state and in the future years that will change quite a bit. Reported crimes indicate, let me back up, incident reports, I apologize. Incident reports are those types of formal reports, more comprehensive reports that we generate when there are crimes or in certain circumstances they may not be a crime, but the nature of the offense nature of the incident requires us to document more information. For example, finding someone's stolen or lost phone or lost purse or something like that because we have to put it into evidence. So it's also used as a tracking system for us. Excuse me. Many times, as was the case this month, you'll see more incident reports than actual reported crime. This month we filed 52 incident reports, or when I say this month in July, 52 incident reports compared to 27 in the same month in the previous year. Now I want to move on directly to reported crimes, and of course if you have questions I'll be glad to take them at any time. These are the number of crimes actually reported. This is ultimately then used to calculate your crime rate. When you see reports from the federal government, state, or local authorities about what a crime rate is, these incident reports are used to create those numbers. And the way it's done is it's calculated based on a per 100,000 population. So there's a mathematical formula that ultimately provides you an ability to compare ourselves to any other city, any county, any state, and actually anywhere in the U.S. that utilizes this. Excuse me. We will see a slight increase going forward. I was in training back in July and heard presentations from the FBI and the SBI regarding the reason for these increases. Essentially, we have historically reported summary crime data, which are 7 types of crimes. That's what all crime data has been based on. Those are murder, rape, robbery, aggravated assault, burglary, motor vehicle theft, larceny or theft, and arson. Those are the things that previously calculated any community's crime rate. The glitch in the accuracy of that was this: if you had a robbery and then someone stole the car, it was reported only as the most serious thing, the robbery. So you can see you had different crime levels being reported. Beginning this year or last year, and we received acceptance just last week, we're moving to national incident-based reporting, which will capture all of those crimes. So if there are 3 different crimes in one event, we will show that as 3 crimes. The preliminary estimates at the federal level, as they strive for more accurate crime reporting, is most categories may see about a 2% increase, probably at top. Many may see none. But, all of us, as we move forward with this and using this reporting system, can kind of anticipate that we'll see a little change, if you will. Now that's important because, again, the FBI and ultimately the SBI publishes our crime rates on an annual basis, and there is a delay. 2018 crime rates have not been reported, not been officially published yet by the group that collects that for the state. We anticipate those, we should see them in the next 2 months if they stay normal to there. So we'll look forward to that, and that'll have us the ability to compare where we stack up as a community against other places and against the state as a whole. So that's going to be a little bit of change, and I've provided you with a chart in this document that shows you monthly events under those categories, under the new categories, as well as year-to-date summary data in those categories. The next category that you'll see a report on is motor vehicle crashes. Basically, that is any crash that we end up reporting to the North Carolina Department of Motor Vehicles, which through a combination of injury or the estimated value of damages, it rises to the level that requires that report. July of this year, we filed 16 motor vehicle crash reports, as compared to, interestingly enough, 16 last year. Same number, so that remained unchanged. Excuse me. You'll see directed efforts. Directed efforts categories, basically from time to time, we'll get citizen complaints, either through a phone conversation, talking to an officer, talking to one of you, saying, this is happening in this community. It may be speeding, it may be stop sign violations, and this is where we'll kind of give you an overall idea of the areas that we worked in that month and what results are important to share. In July, we focused on some areas in Wendell Falls, Edgemont Landing, Maddox Street, and a couple of core neighborhoods in the downtown area. A number of vehicles were stopped in those cases, and appropriate actions were taken with the ultimate goal of gaining voluntary compliance, whether it's to speed or whether it's not stopping at the stop sign. I mean, that's our goal, is to see that compliance. We also received a speeding complaint in the 100 block of Hollybrook, and we've deployed our radar sign, which we'll use to capture data to see exactly what speeds are and see if there's any spatial or time relationship that we could focus enforcement if it were in fact needed. So those are the kinds of things you'll see monthly in a directed category. You may not see one every month. It's going to largely be driven on the community outreach and what we hear and what we can provide staffing to and the concerns at that time. Community engagement efforts. One of the goals noted in the strategic plan and our budgetary document was to do a minimum of 12 community events per year. Now that could be something like we do with Camp Choices or Public Safety Day. It could be participating in another event as a partner with someone or spin-off events. The Bond with the Blue type things or just anything that we get a chance to get out and interact in that positive type of setting so we can focus on education and understanding across our community. One of the big two things we did this month, obviously, or in July, was we did a presentation at the Rotary Club regarding golf cart ordinances and our golf cart program here, as well as we were in the final stages and all hands on deck getting ready for our Camp Choices event. So those were kind of our two focuses there. You'll also see administrative activities. This is where we'll talk about non-enforcement, kind of give you an overview of the types of training. Some of the same things you may see in your Friday notes, you'll see it a little bit at a higher level here. As we're moving into the accreditation process, you'll see benchmarks that we may establish and appropriate there, training, grants, events, all of those kinds of things. And that's what you'll see in this month's report. As we talked about some training that the officers attended, obviously we had a lot of activities, either getting ready to happen or having already happened, so we spent a lot of time either up and down the ladder prepping or getting after-action reports on things from our 4th of July Harvest Festival and even the proposed Meet on Main were all things that we were involved in that early. And then, of course, we also, one of the big things that week was we received the Watch for Me grant award through the state, and Captain Slaughter attended the mandatory kickoff, which starts us on a focus on pedestrian safety and awareness. So that is, in a nutshell, that is the report that we'll provide you on a monthly basis. As I said, I anticipate over time, as we collect more data and can find more meaningful ways to put it out there, you may see it change just a little bit. But I think that's a good core and direction that we're going. And with that, I'll be happy to take any questions.
Does anyone have any questions for the chief?
Question and a comment. Chief, thank you for assembling this. I understand. Good public policy, specifically in the area, in my personal opinion, in the areas of crime, is not made off of numbers or rubrics, and I understand the vulnerability that you likely feel by handing out a list of numbers that otherwise don't have justification or context to them. That said, we are now merging into this new system of reporting, and I greatly appreciate it. I want to highlight we're a bedroom community in a lot of ways, and when we have growth-related issues, is what I'll call them, and crime will eventually be one that we consider a growth-related issue. Wendell's got more criminals than we got crime, and I know that by cross-comparing the number of court dates with a Wendell mailing address at the courthouse, the number of arrests that make it to Hammond Road, and then looking at our number of total incidents. So there's certainly people, and obviously, generally speaking, or statistically speaking, you would think that the crime would go to the bigger areas. It's hard to rob them all in Wendell. Is there a method of reporting that takes into consideration also monitoring within your core to take that into account as growth occurs, as we continue to grow, just kind of watching the bigger picture of how things are developing? So if there's if people are committing crimes, clearly I think they commit them all over Wake County equally. But we have more people that live here that go to work, and in criminals' case, a lot of times they go to work in Raleigh. And I certainly would hate for us to not take that into our planning and long-term awareness. If my whole street is nothing but criminals, but we only commit crime in Raleigh, generally being aware of that. And I know that there's other prevention things, but I know we're getting ready to go through CALEA and a variety of other things where all of these long-term infrastructure for policy portions for the department is going to be determined over the next little while, and just wanted to keep that on your forefront. We're in this weird little triangle of, and all of my theorization has nothing to do with Johnston County, Nashua, or because I didn't check any of those. I'm just pure Raleigh. I see this is all reactionary, and when we come in, we look at these numbers, and we can just be upset that a crime happened last month, and I'm trying to think of the ways that we can monitor from a prevention side. So Not asking you to include anything new, just keep it in your.
I mean, we certainly will take a look at what opportunities are out there to do that. Some may be more challenging than others, but at the same time, as I indicated, this is kind of our foundation for this document, and going forward, if we find data that's meaningful to all of us, from the police department's perspective to the elected body as well as the community as a whole, those are things we can certainly include subject to the availability.
Anyone else? Well, I appreciate your efforts. It's been something we've been talking about for quite a while, and I'm happy to see it, so thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you all.
All right, item 4B is the introduction of 2 new town employees, Assistant to the Manager Stephanie Smith and Assistant Planning Director Brian Coates. We're going to hear from our Manager Mark Collins and Planning Director David Bergmark.
This is Stephanie. Stephanie Smith joins us with over 13 years of municipal experience for the town of Morrisville. She's worn many hats as that town grows. She brings a background of how organizations evolve as experiencing that growth. She's worn deputy clerk hats and special events, cultural resources, communications, a lot of project management that was of great interest. She brings a can-do attitude through a very competitive process, and so the manager's office welcomes Stephanie Smith as the assistant to the manager.
Good evening. I've heard so many great things about Wendell. I'm really excited to be here. Like Mark said, I have a lot of local government experience. I'm excited to bring that with me here, and I'm ready to get started, get to work.
We are thrilled to have you. Welcome to Wendell.
Thank you.
All those hats you've worn might get you in trouble around here.
I'm ready for it.
We're thrilled to have you and can't wait to see all the great things you're going to bring to us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the board. Very pleased to be able to introduce Brian Coates to you all. He just joined us about a week ago, prior serving with Wake County. He has over 20 years of experience, 13 with Wake County as a Planner 3, where he led efforts dealing with their comprehensive plan update, ETJ extensions, land use planning, and text amendments. So we're looking to draw on a lot of that experience, as well as get him in to help out with development review as well, since we are receiving a lot of development interest at the time. Prior to working with Wake County, he worked in New York State for Tioga and I didn't look how to pronounce these. Chenango, where he coordinated a lot of those planning efforts with the local municipalities. So I consider it a blessing. I appreciate the support and be able to bring him in this respect. And so with that said, I'll allow Brian to introduce himself to the board.
Good evening, thank you. As David said, I'm Brian Coates. Very interested in working for the town. Excited to work on a lot of local projects, transportation, comprehensive planning, just excited. And I'm also a resident of Wendell, so I'm super excited that my commute's really short, but I also can make a huge difference, hopefully, in the community. So, thank you.
Welcome, we're thrilled to have you.
Thank you again.
All right. All right, item 4C is our snapshot monthly report. I'm going to hear from the town manager again.
All right, so I won't go through and read out all the data to you. It's more of what you've heard is coming towards you, and that's a more transparent way of reporting what we do. You know, that started with conversations with you and development of a strategic plan. It was working with departments to come up with work units and performance measures that you adopted in the budget. And now it's reporting those out on a monthly basis, starting with July's numbers here in August. And so you see three parts to your snapshot. We'll be including them regularly, the second meeting of each month and the second meeting. Will be available if you have questions. If not, it's just for informational purposes moving forward. You know, the highlights of the strategic initiatives spreadsheet that's in there, you'll see there's a lot of progress in economic development, downtown efforts. Parks and Recreation Master Plan draft should be here and presented to you in September. Infrastructure projects, you had the Public Works Director last month talking about the progress on 3rd Street utilities and DOT's upcoming paving next month. Wendell Boulevard pedestrian project, y'all approved moving forward with Kimley Horn. We've got them working on the LAP application now, and we're negotiating the contract for the design ongoing. You'll hear a little bit later about a streetlight project on Wendell Falls Parkway from the Public Works Director. Transportation plan review completed. Thank you for supporting that. Kicking off is in the more internal lookings, our comp and class study with consultants next week. In operations, you got the first month of data. There's a lot of data there, a lot of work units. What the department heads and chief alluded to in the police monthly report is that right now it's interesting just to see where we're collecting data. We can, as we move forward, we'll be able to say, hey, how does this month compare to last month? And talk about why it may be different. Next year, we can talk about prior year to this year, where it really gets informative and useful to make good data-driven decisions for the community is when we start getting several years to 10 years of data. Then we're able to see how different work areas are trending over time and go, hey, we need to make some adjustments here. Or this is working good, let's increase this. So the more data we collect, the more robust our ability to guide performance comes with that. Finance, I don't have to tell you, we collect most of our revenue with property taxes. That comes in beginning of the year. You pay out a lot of non-departmental things like insurance and rents in the first month of operation. So you'll see things that like, whoa, why did they spend a high percentage in one place and not others? There's usually a good explanation. If you ever need questions answered about that, you can reach out before, after, or during meetings. It's fine. There's also some graphics in there with the financial report as well. Be happy to take any questions y'all might have had in reviewing the data, and staff's here as well to assist.
Okay, are there any questions? Commissioner Boyette?
Just a couple comments.
Okay.
Just going from a snapshot to a movie reel, this is a very comprehensive list compared to what we've gotten in the past. I also see there are a lot of things. I really do like the color code and the in progress, complete, and all that kind of stuff. And the on hold, it makes it really easy to read. I like the new format. Are y'all still wanting us to remove completed items from the list? It's basically how we have been operating, correct?
Yeah.
I would propose a rule, if it's fine with you, that after 75 days that something has been completed, from the date listed, that we could remove it. That way it'll be on there for 2 successive ones, but not 3, and then it can just be removed unless otherwise noted. Does that sound good to me? Just so we're not getting cluttered with completed tasks. I also noticed there's a lot of things on here. Probably half or 3/4 of the ones that are marked on hold. Are waiting for the start of the new assistant to the manager and planning staff. So yes,
Very happy that they're
I'm sure
here.
she has her work cut out, and planning has their work cut out for them.
Get to bed early tonight.
So it looks really good. I like the format. I like the new layout, and I appreciate all the time it obviously took to put this together. So thank you.
Anyone else? That's great, thank you. Right, moving into our public hearings. Pardon me. Item 5 is a evidentiary hearing on a special use request by Derek and Carrie Askew and Dave Lewis to permit a microbrewery with a tap room to operate on the property address 32 North Main, that actually fronts East Campen. I'm here from Planning Director David Bergmark. Well, actually, let's go back. Let the town attorney talk about the rules of procedure. I apologize. Called you up too soon.
That's okay. I'll stay here.
Go ahead, Mr. Colley.
I'd be glad to. With a quasi-judicial proceeding, unlike a rezoning, witnesses are sworn, due process rights are observed. The decision by the commission is to be made based solely on the evidence presented at this hearing. And there's, of course, an opportunity to ask questions and to explore the issue. The statute says that the decision must be based on competent and substantial evidence, and witnesses are to be sworn in.
Yeah. So anyone that needs to be sworn in, the clerk can swear them in now. They should step forward to the podium. Anyone that wishes to present testimony tonight.
Anyone want to speak on this item? I'll do it too.
All right, now we'll hear from Mr. Bergmark.
So as stated, this is a special use request for a property addressed off of Main Street, although the entrance or the frontage was really more on East Campen Street. The applicants in this case are Derek and Carrie Askew and David Lewis. They made this request for a microbrewery and tap room at this location. Also, I want to clarify that it would include the alley immediately east to this, and there's going to be depending on the outcome of this, there would be a forthcoming request to close that alley, and there's an intent to try to use that for some outdoor dining and other uses, so we want to make sure that it's included within the special use request. And why are we going through this process? Well, microbreweries are listed as permitted with some additional standards. One of those standards is that if it's having on-site consumption, which this one would be, and it is not also operating as a restaurant, then they have to go through a special use permit process, much like just a standard bar or tap room would. As part of their application, they included hours of operation, those being Monday through Thursday, 3 p.m. to 11 p.m., Friday through Saturday, 12 p.m. to 12 a.m., and Sunday from 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. This area and all the surrounding properties are within our downtown mixed use or DMX zoning district, which all shows up in red on that. The entire block is that way. You're looking at the aerial with the property in question also highlighted in red, which might be a little hard to see, but it's right there centered. They included within their application, attachment to their application, a conceptual blocking diagram that showed the property in question. The colors on there are a little hard to see, but it shows you in general how they're looking to lay out the space. With their brewing area kind of on the back side furthest from Campen Street. So on this diagram, Main Street is on the left side of the screen, Campen Street is on the north side. The tap room would be up closest to Campen, where the front entrance would be, and then they'd have some storage and support space, and then outdoor dining would ring around both sides of the building with a loading and utility area kind of on this back corner here. They anticipate that if they were full to the brim, that they would have 88 seats in their tap room, which would require the use of 22 downtown on-street parking spaces. Again, this is they'd probably be thrilled to have that completely full, but if we had a big event downtown, then you know, they could reach that, and that's how many spaces would be required per our code at the rate of one parking space per 4 seats. But like most of our downtown properties, this lot does not include any off-street parking, so they would be reliant on the adjacent on-street parking available. They are doing some pretty significant building renovations to this, as well as looking to do outdoor seating. This is the old livery building, old stable building, so they would be looking to invest a good amount of money in the building. They included some conceptual pictures on some of the types and design themes that they're looking to incorporate that you have as part of your attachment as well. They are still conceptual at this point, but to give you an idea of some of the things that kind of inspire their design. I also want to mention that the town has entered a long-term lease with Barry Perry who has an adjacent lot to the east of this that we are looking to upfit for public parking and potential use for event space. So in terms of parking, there would in the future be additional parking in addition to what we have right now for our on-street parking or within this space as well. And I mentioned that they are looking, assuming this project moves forward, through the board to request an abandonment of the alley immediately to the east of this. They've indicated that Mr. Perry would cede the alley area to the microbrewery lot for use that they indicated, which would again be outdoor dining and some loading utility function as well. And we have reviewed the application. Deemed it to be complete. You have included as part of your application the general requirements for approving a special use permit. We found identified no items that would not meet those general requirements, and looking through it as staff. As a condition of the approval, we recommend that the boundary of the special use approval be specifically extended to include that alley to the east for the purposes of outdoor seating, loading, and utilities, contingent upon transfer of this property to the applicant, which would happen in the future. I'd be happy to take any questions that you may have.
Any questions?
The seating of the alley, or abandonment, or whatever you want to call it, do the plans for the renovation of that alley, can you get a little bit more into that? Is it going to be all outdoor seating? Is it going to be partially outdoor seating and partially some parking? I assume if there's a loading area, there's going to have to be a traffic lane through this, maintained through there.
So let me go back to this picture. I think that, and I may ask the applicant to respond to this as well. The outdoor seating area was the primary purpose for it. They did think, though, that they may have a piece of mechanical equipment that might be on that bottom right corner, and that they might have an entrance there as well. The area that's east of this would still be open. The area that the town is leasing so we would still have some access available to get to said door. Beyond that, I'll probably look for the applicant to give a little more detail on what they were thinking.
So they're not talking about taking over the entire alley?
No. So the alley.
Okay, I just want to make sure of that.
The alley is I don't know the exact dimension, but it's let me 12. Yeah, about 15 feet. So if you look on this aerial, you can kind of see. Let me clear this off. You can see this area right here. That's basically your alley. So that whole lot, that's the area they're looking at. This whole lot next to it is not what's being abandoned. This is the area that we would have the long-term lease to be retrofitting as additional downtown parking. So it would just be that, 12, 15 feet section there in between, highlighted in green, that would be what they'd be requesting to try to abandon.
Thank you for that clarification. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions from the board?
Do we know about utilities within that alleyway?
We'd still have to look into that as part of the process to make sure that it wasn't going to create any conflicts for utility access. So yeah, it would have to be contingent upon that.
Anyone else? All right, let's hear from the applicant.
First off, I want to say thank you, Mayor Gray. Thank you to the board and the community of Wendell for taking up your time tonight and meeting with us to talk about the special use permit. I want to introduce my team. My name is Derek Askew, and I currently work as a fraud and data analyst for a credit union in Raleigh. And if this comes through, this will become my full-time career. I will run the brewery. I'll be part owner, and I'll be the brewer. I'll be running operation. This is my wife, Kay Askew, and she is she works for Phillips Architecture. She's a partner there in Raleigh. She specializes in doing commercial interior design. She will be keeping her job. Dave Lewis, be our partner. Dave Lewis is a partner of Riley Lewis General Contracting in Raleigh. And Trey Adams. Trey Adams is managing partner of Atlas Dark Properties in Raleigh, and what they do is they specialize in revitalization of historic properties. They've been an integral partner in some renovations in Clayton and also in Raleigh. So that's my team. We are very excited. We have a great vision. We're excited about coming to Wendell. Our vision is that we want to be an anchor point for the community of Wendell. We want to be a place that you can come to and have social gatherings, have meetings, events on site. So we absolutely want to be a part of the rebirth of the historic Wendell. We want to also help maintain that small town feel. So we really like that. We hope to partner up with many of the local businesses to host events, participate in activities that will provide a local place for the local community to gather instead of going to Raleigh. We feel that this will bring more businesses and opportunity to the town of Wendell. Our atmosphere, we plan to provide a family and pet-friendly atmosphere that will allow for food to be delivered on site from the local restaurants in the area, or you can bring your own food on site. We do plan to have a strong, heavy food truck scheduling on site. We'll provide power for the food truck to help reduce the noise level. We do plan to provide some prepackaged food on site. As Dave said earlier, there'll be plenty of interior seating along with some exterior seating there in the alley. We plan to have like music night, trivia night, dart league nights, and other activities. We will offer periodic tours of the brew area and the brew equipment for the public. And there will actually be seating that's close to the brewing equipment for people to see and enjoy the view of the equipment. So with that being said, I think you guys will find that our team will prove to be great collaborators for the town of Wendell. We will be big contributors and participants in any of your town events, and we look forward to those partnerships. With that being said, do you guys have any questions for us?
Anyone have any questions for the applicant and the board? All right, well, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Is there anyone who would like to speak in opposition?
Disappoint. I will speak, but not in opposition.
Well, come on.
Name's Paul White, local businessman, and I got to know this lady and her husband and the other gentleman through talking to them about a building that I had interest in. They decided on this one. I think this would be very good for Wendell. I think we would get I think we'll eventually get one, if you go back to the one on Main Street, they're supposed to have done this and they hadn't got around to it yet. I think they will at some point. But this would move us forward. I would mention a couple other things. The alley's actually been closed since the 60s because we used it to run our electrical, so we'd have underground, wouldn't have our stuff on Main Street. So it's closed, and I guess we got to work out the relationship about having the poles there, but the alley's actually already not an alley anymore. I also like to mention that when I met you, and I don't know what you do to do that, but you told me you are a master brewer. I'm trying to warn, he's not an amateur in doing what he's talking about doing. He knows his ball game. I simply wanted to say from my point of view, I think this would be good for Wendell. I think it would also move for Wendell Falls. It might get a few people turning right instead of left and checking things out. Thank you.
So there's no one, I guess, who was sworn, so is there anything else that you'd like to add as applicant? Is there anything else that you'd like to add? Okay, thank you. All right, Mr. Bergmark, do you have any closing comments?
Nothing other than, again, I pointed out that, just for clarification, asking that the approval would include that alley, pending it being ceded to the applicant and contingent on any qualifications of that abandonment. Otherwise, no other comments from staff.
Okay. Anything else from the board?
Do we need to close the hearing? Or anything?
I don't think it's, no, that's not in the way I have it written down. Thank you.
Just making sure.
No, thank you.
I spent my weekend in Kinston, at a brewery there, and saw what one little thing can do for a town that otherwise doesn't have much. And I'm not saying one doesn't have much, I'm just saying one little thing can spark a lot of things. And I think this is a great start. I'm really excited about this one. So I'll make a motion to approve the special use request to permit a microbrewery on 32 North Main Street, and to include the staff recommendations to extend the request to the alley on the east. Upon contingent of transfer of property to applicant.
Okay. Is there any discussion on the motion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? All right, thank you very much. We'll move into our administrative items now. Item number 6 is a report on streetlight installation on Wendell Falls Parkway from Jake May to Landing View. We're going to hear from Public Works Director Brian Bray.
Hello, Madam Mayor and Commissioners.
Good evening.
Come before you tonight with a report on streetlight installation on Wendell Falls Parkway from Jake May to Landing View Road. Staff is requesting for approval to proceed with the design and installation of streetlights for that area. The development of Foxborough Crossing between Buffalo Creek and Jake May Road extended the town limits beyond the extent of the current municipal streetlights. Citizen concerns related to speed of vehicles and damage to personal property, especially mailbox damage, has necessitated enhanced traffic enforcement efforts as well as an evaluation of the physical conditions along the road. Public Works staff has worked for some time with Duke Energy as well as the North Carolina Department of Transportation to evaluate the physical condition of the roadway. And it was determined that a narrowing of the paved surface in a dark area with a slight curve past the creek may be contributing to motorists striking mailboxes and trash cans. So the proposed solution is the extension of streetlights on Wendell Falls Parkway from Landing View to Jake May Road. And I can show you the map on there. So basically coming from Landing View over to Jake May, that's what we're wanting to light up there. Duke Energy and their contractor Pike, they have designed the installation of 14 new fiberglass poles. Those will all have 105 amp LED fixtures to resolve the streetlight gap. Basically, it's going to be the same type light that we have coming from the northerly side of town, extending that way. The cost estimate to install the lights is $17,436.93, with an ongoing monthly cost of $182.01 per month is the estimate. Staff is recommending that we approve the streetlight installation project in this current fiscal year to address the safety concern now. The expense will be charged to our streetlight line item in the current Public Works budget. We had $141,075 budgeted. Any overage would be adjusted in the final budget amendment toward the end of the year if need be. I'm happy to answer any questions if you might have some.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Bray?
These are 105 amp streetlights?
Yes, LED.
That's a lot of power.
It is, yeah. They're a really big light. I've had one that was knocked down a long time ago, and it's pretty impressive when you see it on the ground.
Okay.
Any other questions?
So I got one. I'm not certain that if this is a Mr. Bray question or a manager question. How do we get here?
So it started with
citizen concern of speeding and vehicles striking mailboxes, and there's two shared driveways there. We exhausted the enforcement part. I'm sure a lot of people saw the police vehicles parked there near Foxborough Crossing at periodic different times over different months. We asked DOT and Public Works staff looked at the physical, the turn, and there's a little narrowing of asphalt. So there was a, is it just a natural movement of your vehicle towards that side of the road and that curve? Mailboxes aren't always the brightest thing, even though the families there were putting reflective tape and everything to try and make it visible. This would not be 100% solution, but as the town extends its jurisdictional boundaries, especially in areas outside of established subdivisions, we also need to do this extension. Normally, you would get this as part of a capital improvement project or an allocation into the streetlight amount that would deal with this. Given that there's a repetitive property loss and we don't want it to be any other kind of loss for those properties, and the length of time it takes utilities to respond and install once we get this approval of approximately 6 months.
About 6 months from signing, yes, sir.
So we're still 6 months from solution, from decision. So rather than wait to the budget process and move that forward, given that there's a property and potential safety issue there in that turn, we thought it better to go ahead and get it moving. So that's long story short how we got there. Longer term, we need a policy and process of how we proactively install streetlights outside of new development throughout the town and incorporate that into our capital improvement program, which y'all saw the steps towards those improvements in our capital improvement plan last budget.
I don't want to nitpick this particular project, but you said it was a repeating problem of people running off the road there. How many incidents had there been of property damage or people running off the road there?
I don't know in the past. I'm personally aware of one particular property owner's mailbox getting taken out 4 times in the last year.
How many of those were at night?
I don't know. If I knew exactly what time, I would assume most of them, but I don't know.
Okay. So,
Brian,
make it.
Yeah, there has been data collected by, the police chief has forwarded it, and I actually forwarded that over to NCDOT to ask for some signage. We asked for rumble strips and things like that in the past. So there has been quite a bit of data collected over a considerable amount of time, if I'm speaking correctly there, Chief. So we do have that is available.
we're also evaluating speed limit reduction through there to try and slow traffic. So if you increase light and slow traffic, it provides an opportunity for more response time if something comes into your vision. Right now it doesn't warrant from DOT standards the speed limit reduction, and so but the lighting we can do for physical improvement. If there was a future interest in reducing the speed to 35 like the rest of in the town limits just beyond that, especially as development occurs across the street, then we can formally adopt a resolution by the board and advance that to DOT to get them to be more proactive.
Since you have been here longer than the manager, do you know of how long has this been going on? Maybe we need to look back in time a little bit. I think people are wondering,
I know.
Chief might be
And
able
Chief,
to help us
yes,
out.
maybe able to help with that as well.
Sure.
But what do you know about it?
Without being able to say the exact month, I'm going to say we've been dealing with this for near a year, and Chief probably went back beyond that. I'm guessing the 18-month mark on incidents that have occurred there. Chief, you might, go ahead.
There are a couple of things. Those 4 homes that are affected by this problem sat, as we all remember, unoccupied for quite some time, probably didn't get occupied until maybe 2016, 17. I'm off the top of my head there. And it began pretty shortly thereafter. So we've had a combination. Sometimes the homeowners have elected just to fix it themselves without contacting us. Other times they've contacted us when the opportunity arose, and we've taken reports. So there, interestingly enough, out of the 4, there are like 2 that seem to be more frequent. They're all in the same area. And there have to be at least, if I remember correctly, I'm going to say somewhere between 6 and 10 total events between what was reported to us and what the community has said, or those homeowners have said as a whole.
I recall getting an email about it a couple of, maybe 18 months or a year ago, maybe, and forwarding it to Ms. Teresa Piner, and then she to you, and so it has been going on for a little while. At least that's when I was aware of it.
And we've looked at things that we could do that, to try to help them mitigate it at a simpler level, and it's just not proven effective.
Okay. Did you I hear a question down here?
No, I was going to clarify before we went down that rabbit hole that I understand. So I'm going to vote for this, but I want to make really clear why I'm voting for it. I'm voting for it because we have lights to the line, and this is the main artery going out, and I feel like to continue the lighting, to get lighting further out, we're going to have to do this section. What I was attempting to caution us in was attempting to address someone's broken mailbox, which I completely get can escalate into something else because that strip of roadway only has 2 or 3 homes. Maybe that's the reason that it is a problem. I think that missing piece of pavement may be more the problem, or the flow, or the fact we put a lot more people on it. But I would hate for us to get into the process of every time someone's mailbox gets hit, we spend $141,000 on new lights because Commissioner Carroll would have at least 17 street lights in his front yard based on the number of times that mailbox has been hit. It's just one of those things that sometimes happens. I'm voting for it. I think it's great that we're going to extend street lights out. I would just caution us our justification can clearly be, we have street lights to this point, and we just need to continue extending them out. And I think that's the best way, in my opinion, to do it.
Because to clarify, the project cost is $17,000. If it was 141, you'd see it in the budget.
I completely get it.
Still a lot of mailboxes.
Yes, sir.
But it's where we're going to have lights anyhow.
I understand.
Yeah.
And to that
That's how I
point,
can
and to that
justify it.
point, I would like to ask, are these lights going to be placed such that when development does continue out and this roadway is ultimately widened either with a turn lane or whatever the cross-section is, are they going to be placed somewhere that we're not going to have to move them?
That is the ideal. We are following the NCDOT encroachment policy, and that's what Pike, they are coordinating on our behalf to make sure they're placed where they should be.
To clear policy, this is the section of Wendell Falls Parkway that's not being widened in the transportation plan. It remains the 2. So if a development comes in and requires utility relocates, the developer would be responsible for any relocation.
And if the police chief has it, you said you had a little more data on the higher number of incidents. I would still like to see how many of these, if you had time of day. Not now, but just sometime in the future, I would like to see that data as to how many of these incidents occurred overnight and how many occurred. Because I know the last one that I saw happen, because I drive that road. I drive that road a lot. I think all of us do. The last one that happened was during the day. I think it happened sometime in about the middle of the morning. So I would just be interested to see how many are happening at night, since we're talking about a lighting solution for that.
And I'll just assume that the property owners for these 4 houses have been notified of this and are aware of these plans to a degree. I mean, I wouldn't want to put this up and then complain about big street lights, kind of lights in the yard.
We provide them periodic updates.
Okay.
So, is that in the form of a motion?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So can't you restate your motion?
Charlene, go ahead, you got it in front of you.
Did you say no or yes?
I said you go ahead, you got it.
Okay, I felt like you.
I'll make a motion to approve the streetlight installation on Wendell Falls Parkway from Jake May to Landing View.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the street light installation. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor? Our other business, I believe I'm the only one tonight. And I know everybody's excited to hear about Campo. Last week I attended Campo on behalf of the town of Wendell, and we endorsed the findings of the Triangle Strategic Tolling Study for use in further long-range planning, endorsed the findings of the Southwest Area Study for use in further long-range planning, approved the commuter rail system guidelines and evaluation framework, and accepted the corresponding scenario evaluation results. We held 5 public hearings, adopted the locally preferred alternative for the New Bern Avenue bus rapid transit corridor. We approved the fiscal year 2018 to 2027 Transportation Improvement Program Amendment Number 8. We approved the Air Quality Conformity Determination Report and requisite 2045 Metropolitan Transportation Plan and the 2018 to 2027 Transportation Improvement Plan amendments. We approved the Public Participation Plan update for 2019 and approved the proposed changes and target modal investment mix for the fiscal year 2021 Locally Administered Projects Program. And we opened a call for all projects through October 31st, 2019. The most interesting thing that happened, which I know that was all really fascinating, so I know it's hard to believe something even more interesting happened, was the federal rescission update, and there was an approval of the TCC recommendation to apply a one-time grace period for projects prior to the 2019, to the end of the first quarter of fiscal year 2020, but so that was the TCC recommendation, but the group decided to extend into the third quarter on a case-by-case basis to accommodate unavoidable delays, some that have been caused by railroad delays that have not been able, some municipalities have not received yet what they needed from railroads, and acts of God, I believe, particularly for the town of Zebulon because of the recent tornadoes that they had. So they've given them a little bit more time to get their stuff in so they don't lose their opportunity. And it's always important to try to help out other municipalities all around us, and so that's what we all try to do. All right, item number 8, Commissioners' Reports. We'll start with Commissioner Joyner.
Thank you, Mayor. Glad to be back after a meeting in intended absence. But a lot of good things going on in Wendell, and obviously we're gearing up for the most wonderful time of the year, which is the lead up to the Harvest Festival and all of our wonderful fall events where I can stand outside for more than 5 minutes without melting into a pile of sweat. So this is my favorite time of the year. Keep your eyes peeled to all the different calendars because inevitably you will miss something. But check out the town's Facebook page to keep up with the new and exciting things that are coming. And then just wanted to, again, apologize for my absence. Before last, it was a work emergency, and it is still presenting itself as a work emergency.
Commissioner Boyette.
No disrespect to any Pirate fans in the audience, but I'd just like to say go Pack for this weekend. And if anyone has access to ACC Alt Access channel, if you'll please text me and let me know how the game goes, because I don't think anybody's gonna be able to watch it. So.
Commissioner Vyrick.
Nothing tonight,
Commissioner Lutz.
Yeah, I just had one thing. I just wanted to to tile Commissioner Joyner's comments regarding upcoming events. On Saturday, September the 7th, the Wendell Methodist Church is having their redoing their community day this year. They took a hiatus last year and they're back this year to have that again. It's Saturday, September the 7th, it's from 10 to 7. I had a little thing pulled up here I was going to read out. It sounded a lot better than I'm going to sound, but it has, they'll have fish plates, silent auction crafts, games, soup for sale, and 100% of the proceeds are going to stay in the community through local nonprofits and schools. So this is anything that the church is doing as a fundraiser to, put in more pews. It's going to be back in the community. So if you need raffle tickets or fish plate tickets, I'm sure you know a local Methodist will be happy to help you out with that. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Quick reminder, Monday, September 2nd, our town offices will be closed for the Labor Day holiday. And also, I was going to mention Saturday, September 7th, Community Day at the Wendell United Methodist Church. The Wendell Rams will be playing Riley Hill starting at 4. There's a spaghetti dinner fundraiser at the Covenant Presbyterian Church. And Farmhouse Jams, I believe, are going to wrap up the season at Wendell Falls. So there's a lot going on that day. I can't help but think back to the time when there wasn't a lot happening in Wendell, and it's really nice to see all the engagement by all of our citizens, but not just that, our community and our churches and our sports teams and things like that. It takes everybody to make things happen like that, and I'm really proud of how everybody's pulling together. And speaking of that, the Wendell Historical Society's annual reverse raffle is coming up at 7 p.m. on, for some reason I didn't, what's the date, Ray?
19th.
The 19th. I didn't want to say the wrong day. On September 19th. I'm sure you can get some tickets maybe from Ray tonight. It's always a fun night. I understand the tickets are going fast and a limited number are sold. So be sure and get your tickets. The funds are to go towards a museum for the town of Wendell. So it's a wonderful thing. I also want to mention something that came to me while I was sitting here tonight, and I may have missed one, but I was counting in my head. I think we have recognized at least 8 new employees in the last 12 to 18 months. We are proceeding on our CALEA and reporting with our police department. Our snapshot is showing progress on our strategic plan and performance measures town-wide, and we're just killing it, and I'm really proud of that. Wendell's doing great. I'm very proud of it, and I'm proud to be part of it, and this board's worked really hard to make those things happen. So, more to come. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All right, we're adjourned.